Hey guys, Kevpert here with a recovery tutorial. So this video is going to assume you have at least platinum level mechanics, but we'll progress to high GC level recoveries. Let's get right into it. We'll be working on the hoops map today since the smaller field size helps for a lot of the wall recoveries we're going to be doing. So the first thing we're going to work on is a few basic moves: flipping onto the wall, jumping on the wall, double jumping down. And when we go on the wall, we can jump off, use a basic forward or sideways wave dash when we land. And of course, you want to be holding Powerslide as you land. These are some of the basics that you'll want to master before we move on to the first drill. So our first drill is half flips. Now, a lot of people do half flips a little differently, but I prefer doing the diagonal ones with the flip cancel. You can also do the straight back ones with the arrow left or right. Make sure you can do it on the walls too. There's a bit of car control involved and it's not always intuitive how to do it. So I like to go into the corner here or onto the side wall and just trying to land back on the wall. Drill 2 is basic wave dashes, and we're just going to do this in free cam. Here we're doing forwards and backwards while we're holding reverse. Or sideways ones where we're holding power slide as well. And then we're going to do some diagonal ones. This is where you just lift one corner of the car and do a diagonal dodge into that direction. Here we're doing diagonal ones to the front right. And then backwards ones. And I actually hold reverse on these and power slide. So these are a little more uncomfortable for me, but it's something you'll get a feel for. Just need to put in a little bit of practice on these first. Okay, drill 3 is just to get familiar with forward wave dashes. We're gonna make it a little more tricky by changing direction. And I try not to hold power slide on these, as I'm just trying to do an abrupt change of direction. Drill 4 is the same thing but backwards. Now try turning your car after a single jump. That's going to be really tough as your controls are inverted. Now these tend to be useful in a couple spots. A bump recovery, and you need to get back on defense quick, or you've landed on a wall and you're facing upwards. You just jump off, backwards wave dash, half flip, and then you're on your way. Drill 5 is sideways and diagonal wave dashes. This is where we can start having some fun and test our car control. We can do abrupt changes of direction or power slide. You can throw in 180s, switching from gas to reverse. It's basically a ground freestyle. It's likely when you're doing this for the first time, you're going to be tripping and not getting clean wave dashes. That's fine. Like car control, you want to find your blackout moments and target those the most. A quick note on controls. I use power slide and aerial together, and I mainly aerial with directional aerial. Having just normal aerial and power slide together is convenient. If you map a directional aerial with power slide, you always have to let go of your directional aerial before landing, and then push the button when you land to power slide. Doing with power slide and normal aerial, you have the choice of holding it down the whole time. So for these next drills, we're going to need the pass ball command. So we're going to go into menu, settings, controls, change bindings, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to map pass ball onto my left stick here, as this is convenient for me to use. Drill 6 is a ball cam wave dash drill, but we're going to use pass ball. This will test you a little differently since the camera moves around. So now it's getting more game-like, and you'll find it can be pretty tricky in some spots. For me, I feel like I get blackout moments when I move away from the ball in ball cam. Perhaps it does for you too. You just have to get a feel for where your weak spots are and attack them. Make sure we introduce some of the things we've already learned, like jumping off the wall and wave dashing or doing half flips. Next, we have the Mawkzy flip cancel, which is a move I saw Mawkzy, a top level 1s player, popularize. While it looks complex, it's actually a simple combo of a couple moves. First, single jump and arrow to the side. If the wall's on your left side, roll to the left. If it's on your right, roll to the right. Then it's a diagonal dodge with a flip cancel. So here is a diagonal dodge to the right, and then pulling the stick straight down. If you've never done this, this can feel very uncomfortable, but it's something you just put in a couple hours and you'll memorize it. It's just like half flips. It's a button combo that you've memorized and it becomes a natural part of your game. Drill 8 is wall jumps. We can go into the corners here and just jump from wall to wall. Sometimes it's a jump with a wave dash onto the wall. Sometimes it's half flips. You'll want to learn how to use side flips and diagonal dodges as well. After hitting a ball, these backwards diagonals are useful for landing back on the wall and recovering quickly, as opposed to just floating in the air and landing on the ground. Drill 9 is the curve dash. Really simple technique. Driving down the wall, jump as you're coming off the curve, and it'll lift the front of your car up. Test out different timings. I'm going to do a little early here, and you can see the car just sinks into the ground, does nothing. And if I do it really late, it kind of floats the car and lifts the nose up. This is something you just want to get a feel for. Once you've done the lifting up your car part with the well-timed jump, you just do a forward wave dash. If you figured out the timing forwards, try doing it backwards as well. I find that once you have the timing mastered, it's not that difficult to do, and you can immediately transition into more wave dashes or another half flip. Drill 10 is a Zapdash. You'll want to jump, land with your front wheels first, and then just try pushing jump again. Try to get a feel for this timing where it's going to lift the front of your car up. Everyone will have different mental tricks that they do, like telling themselves, wait until your back wheels touch the ground before hitting jump. That's up to you to kind of get a feel for. Now you can try doing double jumps as well. The timing is always harder the higher you land from, as explained by Rocket Science, who has an excellent video on this. So since all you need is the front wheels touching the ground first, you can also do diagonal flips where your front wheels touch the ground. And then once you've gotten comfortable with that, you can just do a jump. And you'll get this action of the front of the car lifting up and doing a forward wave dash. Now to do this type of diagonal dodge, you'll want to learn how to do speed flips. Apparently Jack has a great video on how to do this, that's linked in the description. And it's a prerequisite for this technique, at least doing it efficiently. I will say, this technique is very tough to do if you're actively thinking about it. It's something you want to get a feel for, and just trust your body to get the timing right, and that improves my hit rate from 50% to 70-80%. So we're going to work on Walldashes next, but before we do that, we need to install a plugin called Joystick Self-Check. So hit F2, go to Plugins, Plugin Manager, open Plugin Manager, and in this box, we're going to type 54 and click Install by ID. This is going to install Joystick Self-Check, and you'll see it on the left side here. We can just click this checkbox to enable it, and there you go. You should see your Deadzone shape there. Drill 11 is the Walldash in slow-mo. We're going to go to F2, current game, and move the speed slider to 0.65. That seems to be pretty easy for beginners, is what I started out with. If you're on console, just use the slow-mo mutator and do this in exhibition mode. This technique is extraordinarily simple. It's just a diagonal dodge up the wall and then moving your stick in the other direction to flatten out your car. So just get into a rhythm of doing a diagonal dodge, letting your stick come back into the middle, and then flattening out your car. Once you've mastered it at a certain speed, go back to F2 and adjust the speed upwards. I usually use 5% increments. Now at 70%, I've already mastered this, but I haven't mastered it at 100%. So where I practice is about 85 to 90%. It's going to be personal to you, and that's the spot you want to put in the most level of practice. Now I do want to mention, you're not going to be using side flips. You actually want to be using diagonals so that you have some sort of forward velocity, and that's going to help you gain speed. This is why the joystick visualizer is so important. It can help you get your diagonal dodges very consistently. I found with new players, they tend to do a lot of side flips at first, and they're not understanding why they're not gaining any speed. Let's talk about dodge dead zone. If you have a very small dodge dead zone, like mine's at 0.2, you don't have to move your stick that far to get a dodge. So I'm on the ground here. This is where I have my stick, and I can do a diagonal dodge at that point. It's not a double jump. So using this idea, if we're on the wall and we do a slight diagonal dodge, we can spam jump and get a lot of quick wall dashes without actually changing direction that much. Whereas if you're holding in the corner, you'll start going way up the wall. So this is a little trick I do when I'm pointing down the wall. I can do a diagonal dodge, and it doesn't really turn that car that much. So then I don't have to do as much of a correction going the other way. So here's a wall dash tip. There are a few zones on the field where you can get a wall dash at low speed. So if I do a wall dash low speed on a flat wall, I'll just fall off. But if I do it on the curves here, where the corners meet the side wall or back wall, it's a lot easier. Same thing with the curves that are around the field. If you do it here, you can gain a little speed, and you'll get consistent wall dashes where you might not get it on a flat wall. So experiment with this. You can do a couple wall dashes and then jump off, do another wall dash, and then flip. You'll probably get the supersonic at that point. Next, we're going to install Speedometer. So instead of 54, we're going to put into this box 73, install by ID. That'll restart your Freeplay session. And if we go back to plugins here, and we scroll down on the left, you should see Speedometer. And we're just going to enable this. So the speedometer is a useful tool because it shows how we gain speed. We gain speed by driving down the wall, but we lose speed when we go up the wall. Since the Walldash is entirely dependent on finger speed, you'll want to learn your limitations. Figure out the lowest speed you can Walldash at. For me, at normal game speed, if I'm around here, my Walldash will fail. But if I'm above max throttle speed, I can Walldash consistently. Close to supersonic, I'm going to get it every time. This is important to figure out because you'll know how much speed you'll need to gain either by boosting or driving down before you Walldash. Drill 12 is Freeplay with the ball. This is where we introduce all of our different techniques that we've learned throughout this video, where it's a half flip, directional wave dashes, jumping off the wall, wave dashing. You can do Zapdashes, anything you can think of. It's just a freestyle and you're just having fun with all the techniques that you've learned. Once you've achieved relative mastery in your recoveries and you're feeling pretty comfortable, you can just do 5 to 10 minutes of this every day as a warm-up before you play ranked, and your recoveries will feel pretty good. Now, if you have some weaknesses, say for me, wall dashes or backwards wave dashes, that's something you can target more in a warm-up, or if you need a specific drill, you can use that too. So my last drill is Unranked 3s. This is where I go into a low pressure environment and just go crazy with the recoveries. It's kind of ridiculous, but you'll want to overemphasize your recoveries. I've done this for probably around 100 games, and it seriously improved me. You'll be surprised to see how little seems to translate from Freeplay to game. It's just the demands of a match are much higher. You have to look around, respond to different things, think about positioning and rotations. If you've not gotten to a good level with your recoveries, it's going to be very hard to do them when you're focused on something else. But I think the most important part of match training is it'll show you where your blackout moments are. Then you go back to training and target that. That ends this video. I'm going to let this play out for a couple minutes just so you can see how I use a match setting to improve. You'll see that I've incorporated everything we've learned in these 2 minutes. As always, thank you for your support and I wish you the best of luck in your improvement. Peace out.